Hello and welcome to the 40th episode of the Red Sox Unfiltered Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Green, and we got a very exciting episode for everybody today. Later on in the show, we are going to be joined by the Rocket, Jared Carrabis of Barstool Sports. Stay tuned. You're obviously going to want to listen to that part. And this part will be fun, too. We're about to do the intro banter, but that is the good stuff. But joining me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Dave Latham. Dave.
How is it going, everyone? Happy 4-0 podcast. If this podcast were a person, it would be halfway to death.
I don't want to do this podcast anymore. That was too depressing.
Too hurtful, man. Too hurtful.
Too hurtful. And also joining me today is our other lovely co-host and wonderful producer, Chris Drozine. Chris.
Man, I have no idea why you say I'm a lovely person by saying I'm lovely.
I think I address both of you as lovely, so if it makes you feel like that's less of a compliment.
All right.
Well, I am lovely,
this is a good way to start. We've got death, and we've got
love.
You don't think anybody's lovely. You just use that tag on everybody. All right. So I'm in a good mood now. Let's go.
That's not true. I think both of you are very lovely. But yes. So before we get into this, please stick around for the Jared Carrabis interview. We talked to him about a real great variety of stuff. So that's what you're going to want to listen to. But let's just get into this now. Pitchers and catchers will be reporting on February 13th for the Red Sox. And that's on Wednesday, probably when you're listening to this podcast dropping. So there are some storylines that are very captivating. Obviously, since we recorded our last episode, which just dropped on Sunday, which is not very long ago, nothing has happened. 'Tis the offseason for most major league teams. 'Tis the offseason, especially for the Red Sox. So my first question for you guys is one that's more broad and abstract, but what are you most looking forward to with these spring training storylines? I'll start with you, Dave.
Rafael Devers. I can't wait to see what the dude does. Matt Collins talked about on the last podcast, Devers is really the last unfinished product coming through the ranks. So I'm like, you have Michael Chaffetz, but he doesn't have that superstar ceiling that Devers does. So I'm going to be fascinated to watch how he looks in spring training. If he knows how to field now, if he really is as in good shape as they're saying, he's definitely the guy I'm going to be watching.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
I'm interested to see how the catching shakes out, mostly because I don't see them holding all three of them all year again. That's crazy. You're working with a 24-man roster. You can't do that all year again. I mean, maybe they can. They did it last year.
It worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah, a little bit, right? And it worked out pretty well, but I'd like to see that change.
Yeah, I honestly, that was going to be my answer. So, the catcher situation, we do talk with Jared later in the episode, but that is obviously probably what's on most people's mind. I think the consensus or the conventional wisdom right now is they probably won't keep all three like they did throughout last year, and that one of them will go. Who that is anyone's guess. Honestly, I think you can make a compelling argument for any one of them. But for me, I have to say it is the bullpen, which is the biggest question mark that the Red Sox have. There are a lot of guys that I'm interested in, kind of. I feel like that's the best way to put it. I think we do obviously have some nice prospects who may be a little far out. Well, not too far out, but a little bit in the horizon. Travis Lakins, and Durbin Feldman come to mind. But I'm ready for the return of the legend that is Bobby Pointer. We talk about spring training guys. Bobby Pointer had an incredible spring. He had a great April, and like his numbers throughout his minor league career look like a really solid bullpen piece. And even when he got up, he did well. He's got very strong peripherals. He's only 26. I know Core doesn't really care about the lefty thing, but Pointer is a guy who can get righties and lefties out, and he's someone I'm watching, as well as Colton Brewer, who they traded from the Padres. That guy's also 26 right-hander. He's interesting too. We were talking about the PECOTA projections on last episode, and that's like an algorithmic kind of projection system, and they tabbed Colton Brewer for 25 innings, and they tabbed Ryan Brazier for 55 innings of work. And they said that based on WARP, which is just Baseball Prospectus's version of WAR, essentially, that he was going to be as valuable as Ryan Brazier. 0.4. So that gives me hope. If you if you parlay that over a larger season, that's probably going to be worth like almost a win. So, yeah, I think Colton Brewer and Bobby Pointer are guys that I'm really interested to see if they can carve out some useful bullpen roles for the Red Sox. But, yeah, that's going to be the biggest question mark for the Red Sox all year. And we'll see. There's still time for the Red Sox to sign another reliever. Trade deadlines are a thing. Obviously, Nathan Eovaldi and Steve Pearce came to his last trade deadline, so I'm not too worried about it. And this team just won 108 games, but interesting to watch. So I want to get your opinion, though, Dave, on the catcher situation because it is so relevant, I guess, right now. What do you see? I know Chris has his opinion, but what do you see shaping out with these three?
I think Sandy's gone. I think we're going to trade him for basically some team's 40th ranked infield prospect. Sandy, God love him. He's a fantastic human being. He's a great defensive catcher. He can't hit. And we have Vasquez, who I think is going to bounce back a lot this year. I think, he's not going to be as good as he was in 2017, but he's not going to be as bad as he was in 2018. I think he's going to be the main starter. I think Blake Swihart's going to earn the right to be the backup because he's $1.5 million cheaper than Sandy. And there's the potential he could be good. Sandy doesn't have that potential. So I think Sandy's gone. Love you, but you're gone.
To counter, do you remember 2016 Sandy Leon, Dave?
You and I both know that Sandy Leon knows that was not sustainable.
You think he does? You think he does? You think he's just like, man, I know I'm not that good.
I mean, you have to be at least a little bit self-aware to realize you're not Mike Trout.
Yeah, I mean, we have to give him credit. The guy's awesome with pitching staff. He's awesome at calling games.
Yeah, he definitely has value, but I just think he's third on the list.
As a hitter, he's never going to be an above-average hitter. Never going to be an average hitter again, probably. I mean, that would be cool. Throwback player of the year. I'm riding that train. That's my bold prediction for 2019.
Don't make that your bold prediction.
Pat's got a lot of bold predictions, and I should really be writing these down.
What other bold prediction do I have?
Oh,
Bryce Brents is going to...
The potential of Bryce Brents.
I said that I was interested in Bryce Brents because we were doing a very far-fetched bit, and I don't remember the content.
You said
we can go back in that
potential.
He has potential.
He's
has
30.
Potential to be. I didn't say he was going to be better than what he was. I said he had potential to do well on a big league club. We're working with different definitions of potential, and I'm not even saying well. I mean, like in a bench role, he could hit some home runs sometimes.
You and me made a water bet last week over Bogey and Benny.
Oh yeah, we did. But that wasn't really bold, Yeah. I feel like that was a pretty even deal. Like I wouldn't be surprised if
you
either
bet
of us win the
yourself
water bet.
a T-shirt over Jackie Bradley.
I did that with purpose. That was intentional. That wasn't bold. I knew it was going to happen. I was convicted in that. To remind everyone, I bet myself last year in like July when JBJ had a 500 OPS, that if it crept up to 700, which I knew he will, looking at any peripheral number ever, I would buy a Jackie Bradley Jr. jersey. And you know what I have in my closet right now? A Jackie Bradley Jr. jersey. It all comes back full circle.
Did you just say you made a bet with yourself?
I did. I was tweeting about it. Did you not follow? Tweeted about it like all year, and I wrote like 7 articles about the chronicles of this.
Yeah, it was fun podcast. And would go on the Jackie Bradley reign, and you'd start talking about the T-shirt, and I'm like, okay, dude, I'm not a part of this at all.
And it worked.
Why would you bet yourself?
Because I wanted the jersey and I needed some incentive.
I feel like it's like a lose-lose situation if you bet yourself.
No,
right?
It was a win-win
He was
situation.
betting the universe.
I was betting the universe, and I was betting against the people who thought JBJ was bad at hitting.
He's only okay at it.
Exactly. That's all I was trying to say. So Alex Cora said that Eduardo Rodriguez is in the best shape of his life. This is the time for embellishments. It's perfect. What do we expect from Eduardo Rodriguez in 2019? Dave?
I'm an Eddie truther. Let's just get that out of the gate right now. I do think Eddie's going to be a pretty good pitcher this year. I don't think he's going to be the best in the rotation by a long shot. He's probably going to be the 5th best. But that is a really good starting rotation. So Eddie can really help solidify the back end. I think, we've all seen Eddie at his best. He's a really good guy when he's going right. I think he's going to start going right a lot more this year. Can he go deep into games? I'm not sold on that, but I think he's going to crack the 140 inning mark this year, and I think he's going to be a pretty solid pitcher and really help, solidify arguably a top 3 rotation in baseball.
You want to talk about bold predictions? You just said Rodriguez is going to crack the 140 inning mark.
It's
that
on.
Is bold.
Yeah.
It is on. This is the season to be bold. Chris,
with the exception of if Blake Swihart throws him into a death trap again, bets off.
Okay, bets off. We'll have another water bet.
I'm gonna have to write all these bets down, and we're gonna revisit them.
Make
later.
a bet book.
Like the gambling podcast.
When we finally do our predictions, we should just not make it predictions. We should just make it the gambling podcast.
We should just make a second side podcast that's solely gambling advice.
No.
Sports
Specifically this, when we go to do our preview, the season preview towards like the middle end of spring training, which I assume we're gonna do. We should just call it the gambling podcast, and we should all just like make random bets on things.
My roommates and I actually have a bet book, and we've been like tracking our sports bets for years because like some of them were made in not a very sober state. So it's a really good tool. So I think you should write them down. Obviously, we have proof because we can go back and listen to these episodes, but we won't do that. So yeah, start open up. I'll open up. I'll take it upon myself. I have pen and paper at all times, and I'll write it down as these episodes go on. Does that sound fun?
Let's do it.
And the winner of whoever gets the most right at the end of the year gets to buy themselves a Jackie Bradley Jr. jersey.
I don't.
What an honor!
No.
I will buy a second one in red. I am not afraid.
No one's stopping you from doing that.
The universe. Okay, so now, you know what, Chris? Before I go to the next question, what's your bold prediction? You have anything bold you think is going to happen in spring training?
In spring training?
Bold in spring training? I don't know.
Bold?
In general.
Give
me something bold.
Bold.
Capital letters.
I don't know what my boldest Red Sox take is this year. I kind of have I have fleeting thoughts about it, and I never write them down. I really should as I go along. That I'm like, oh, this is a brilliant idea, but then it just kind of goes away, and this is why, I am where I am right now. Not this is a bad place to be, but I'm gonna have to say Chris Sale, and everybody's gonna hate me for this. Chris Sale gets injured and misses a huge chunk of time this year.
Okay.
That's my bold prediction. And it's going to happen. It's not going to happen in spring training. So if you want spring training specific,
I mean, you can give me spring training specific.
Spring training specific. I'm going to go with Durbin. Whoa! I'm playing videos. I'm going to edit that out. Spring training specific. I'm going to go with Durbin Feltman gets on the opening day roster.
Dalton Furbush, as told by Jared Carrabis. Well, actually, really, that was the other guy, Coley.
Yeah. I'm giving Jared full credit for it.
Yeah, we'll give Jared full credit.
I just remembered this, Dave. Last week when we were talking to Matt Collins, or actually a couple days ago, you said that you prophesized Rafael Devers will be a better hitter than JD Martinez in a few years.
Not in 2019, but I'd say
2020,
2021. Yeah.
Okay.
Give me that.
That's bold. I don't know if you heard that, Chris, but that's bold. Capital BOLD, bold.
I'm telling you.
It's happening.
I'm telling you that one of our podcasts is just going to have to be this is our bold prediction podcast, and we just make random little bets about everything that's going to happen this year.
That should be like our just before the regular season podcast.
That's what I'm saying. Like our opening day, like our day before opening day drop is just us.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
this is gonna be so much fun.
We just hashed out something.
Let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now I have like a whole month.
Yeah.
Month and a half to just think of really fiery.
And everyone else, we're gonna be watching spring training. They'll be like, "What are those guys thinking about this time?" You know?
Oh, I got one.
Oh, geez, here we go. Oh wait, he's not gonna share it, but you're gonna share it.
The Red Sox are going to trade Nick Northcutt at the deadline for Drew Pomeranz.
That's too bold for me. I don't know if I want to be a part of this podcast going forward.
On that. I'm faxing you my resignation.
Yeah, no, that won't happen. But if we want to get bold predictions about the trade deadline for a season that hasn't started yet, Nick Northcutt and Bobby Dahlbeck are both getting traded.
I like that one. I can get on board with that. Okay, moving from bold predictions, Chris, you got any rapid fire questions for us?
I do.
Just a couple?
I have a couple. There's a couple.
Okay. Do you want me to explain what rapid fire is?
There's a couple. There's a couple rapid fire questions.
So, if people have not listened to this, you go ahead. You take the mantle.
This is mine.
This is yours. This is your brainchild.
Sponsored by no one.
Get out of my brainchild, my friend. So, rapid. Do you want to explain the whole thing?
I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, basically, I ask a question. These guys don't know what the questions are. They answer it. It's about everything that you could possibly want to know about us, and us in baseball and all that good stuff. And if somebody wants to know more about somebody's answer, you just say explain. They're meant to be quick, and all the answers are meant to be quick too, so nothing drawn out. So get to your point and get off the pot, basically.
Yeah, it's a wonderful.
Yeah, and exactly. It's a great time filler. So, starting out here, will Edwin Encarnacion be traded from the Mariners before the 2019 season?
No.
Before the 2019 season?
Before the 2019 season.
No. Yeah, that's a no.
I'm going with no.
I almost said yes, though.
Does the Kyler Murray spurning of the MLB bring into light how broken the system is?
Yes, and it does, but I mean, it's been pretty obviously broken for a while.
Agreed. Retweet.
Yeah, it does. I like how you just say agreed, retweet to things.
I said it. I do actually say that a lot.
It makes my heart happy.
I'm glad.
At least you don't walk around saying hashtag this and hashtag that.
How do you know I don't?
I'm just judging by the small little windows that I talk to you on here each week. Yeah.
It hasn't happened on the... I imagine you two are the exact same every time you're not on Skype with me.
Look, I say LOL in my day-to-day life. Like, I say that to people.
I use YOLO a lot.
Okay.
Chris.
But I use it in... I'm going to put my, hipster cap on and be like, I use it ironically, man.
I say LOL ironically, too.
Yeah, see? There we
I
go.
also say LMAO as well. That's another one.
IDK, my BFF Jill.
I don't do that one, but you're giving me ideas.
All right, moving on. Waffle cone, sugar cone, plain cone, or a cup?
Waffle cone.
Sugar cone.
No, the cup.
Explain, Chris.
Yeah, I need a really compelling explanation.
Right. So let's talk about plain cones for a minute. All right, you're just eating this.
You're on the clock, by the way.
Okay, all right. Plain cone, too dry for me, too lame for me. Sugar cone, a little too hard for me because I have bad teeth. Not like bad teeth. I'm not like hillbilly man over here. Waffle cone, they put way too much ice cream in that. But I can get behind a chocolate dipped waffle cone. But waffle cones in general, they just put way too much ice cream in there. At least a cup, I know I'm going to finish the ice cream because and that's what I'm there for. I'm there for the ice cream, not the ice cream cone.
I guarantee you now.
I guarantee you, however much they put in that waffle cone, I'm going to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
I know who you are. See, exactly.
Damn right, retweet.
I would like a measured amount of ice cream and not a behemoth load dump truck full of ice cream.
I spent my money on it. I mean it.
There's an ice cream place probably about an hour from where I live, and they have this banana split. And I'm not going to say their name because no free ads. But they have this banana split that is it's a junior banana split, and I swear it's 6 scoops of ice cream, 2 bananas, a whole bunch of toppings. Their small is Friendly's large, if you know what Friendly's is. I don't know if you know what Friendly's is, Pat.
I know what Friendly's is. Dude, I was born in New Jersey. We forget this.
I don't know how far Friendly's reaches.
I don't know where New Jersey is.
No one does.
Fun fact, my phone thinks it's in Weehawken, New Jersey all the time. I don't know what that's all about.
Weehawken?
Weehawken.
You're from Weehawken, Pat?
I'm from Hohokus. I was born in Hohokus.
I love the names New Jersey has for its towns. Weehawken.
Yeah, we have some fun stuff.
What else is there? All right. So
Mawa.
There we go.
Shout out to Mawa listeners.
I don't think there's that many of them.
I don't
Probably
think there's
not.
any of them.
Moving on.
Maybe my grandma.
Which which Marvel movie is your favorite? If you're a Marvel fan, hopefully.
Black Panther.
The one that came before Civil War. Winter Soldier.
He's a big Marvel guy.
Okay.
Clearly.
if you have time, I can go on a Marvel rant because I'm done with that shit.
You're done with Marvel?
Yeah. Look, I get
All right,
it.
I'm done.
Okay?
I'm done. I need him to explain.
I've seen the same movie like 19 times. Civil War was the one that did it for me. It's just like, okay, I get it. Pretty people in like colored pajamas go fight things. Generic villain. Boom, skybeam. Gotta fight it. Gotta punch it, and we did it. Yay.
Well,
Hey,
so
in Infinity War,
set up the
didn't
next
happen.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
in fairness, aren't all movies
Infinity War. That one sounds unique enough.
All movies are not like that.
Let's be real here. All right, so action
It's
movies,
good versus evil.
For the most part, action movies follow a specific script.
Yeah, but my
For
problem
the
is
most
like
part,
I don't
comedy
like
does
action
too.
movies. I just don't like the genre.
No. Here's the thing, and I liked the first few, but then it was like it's the same thing, and there wasn't enough variation from movie to movie. It's like I've seen this every single time now. Like it's the same movie.
I feel like
redundant.
I feel like I want
I
to
need
say
just a little
that
more
Endgame,
change. Like I probably would have watched Infinity War, and I probably would have liked it because it sounds like that was different enough. But at this point, I'm not really invested in them anymore.
Did you watch Black Panther?
No.
That I recommend.
That one was a little different.
The market's saturated too. Like it's too saturated.
I like the
and DC's just like a nonstop edge fest. I can't do any of that.
I like
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, there you go. I like to think that Endgame is going to be a little different than the rest of them.
I'm not a big. Yeah, I'm with Dave. I'm not big on superhero movies.
You guys break my heart.
You gonna resign again?
Yep, I'm faxing it over right now. I'm putting it on some letterhead.
I don't have a fax machine. Jokes.
Nobody does. This podcast isn't being recorded in 1974.
You know what, guys? Just because I'm the old soul here doesn't mean that you have to rag on me for it.
We're not ragging.
You're 4 years older than me.
You're 8 years older than me?
I'm your dad, remember? I'm old enough to be your dad.
All right.
Yeah.
We did do the math there, and we figured it couldn't work out.
Yeah, no, I'm not old enough to be
biologically
your dad.
improbable.
I would have to be
third grade Chris.
I would have at least had to. I would have had to at least been 11 years old. I think we figured that one out.
Yeah.
God, did we spend a whole episode doing that? Was that
I
on?
mean, we're spending a whole episode doing it again. Don't act like there's been things to talk about this offseason.
So that's going to be it for this edition of Rapid Fire Spot by Nobody because we can't be bought.
We might be bought.
I disagree with that.
No, we absolutely can be bought.
I will say we can very much be bought. You can go just at Post Sox Unfiltered, Red Sox Unfiltered. At gmail.com. There are many ways to get a hold of us. We are very accessible, and
we are
very
for sale.
Needy. We are for sale. Giant price tags.
Now you just sound like you guys are trying to fax your resignations now. That's what that sounds like.
No, I wouldn't fax it. I would email. Oh god, Dave.
Dave's like, I'll do anything for money. Anything.
I will read any ad for money.
Good to know. Okay, so yeah, that's actually going to do it for this intro banter. But on the other side of this, guys, it's the Rocket. It's Jared Carrabis of Barstool Sports, Section 10 Podcast, Starting 9 Podcast. You're going to want to stick around. He's our special guest. But thank you for listening to this, guys, and enjoy the interview. What's up, guys? We are joined by Barstool Sports' Jared Carrabis. Jared, thanks for coming on the show.
Happy to be here. This is a full house tonight. I'm excited.
Yeah, we got a full house of Red Sox bloggers. And we're just going to start off here. And I want to ask you, Jared, what's a day in the life like of a Barstool blogger?
Oh, God. I mean, I guess it really depends on the day. Yeah, that's what's cool about the job is that it's different every single day. You know, like I'll wake up some days. There's nothing to write about really, but then it's like, oh, well, I got chirped by so-and-so on Twitter, so now we're just going to have like a full-on public feud, and then that blows up, and then you go into the office, and then you got to I do Sirius radio from 1 to 3, and then I come out, I do the Snapchat channel, and then, you're going in meetings for different plans. Like, we're always trying to plan new things for the season coming up. I try to blog as much as I can, but this off season has been so boring.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's
right
like
there
one
with
of
you.
the things, though, is that, Barstool is different where, I read MLB trade rumors every single day, but 95% of the stuff that they're posting, like, it's interesting to me, but you have to have a good gauge of what's interesting to Barstool readers. So, I mean, it hasn't been a lot this off season. Like the stuff that I'm interested in reading about is not the stuff that would end up on our website. So it's like, you got to wait for someone to have some sort of outlandish quote or like a funny video or something like that. Once the games start, then I'm sort of posting like highlights and reacting to games and breaking down people's seasons and stuff like that. So it gets much, much easier during the season. But during the off season, I can kind of fall back into, the other projects that I got going on. But then you got, your podcasts. We record section 10 at night. We record starting 9 at night. So yeah, you got a lot going on and you're kind of all over the place during the week.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Based off Twitter, I see you're watching some Breaking Bad too. And I know Chris is also watching Breaking Bad, and he had a question he wanted to throw your way.
Yeah, hilariously, I started watching it probably 3 weeks ago again. What's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene?
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's tough.
It is tough. I think, because this is my 5th time watching it from beginning to end, and, they say, because it's so beautifully written and it's not just about Walt. Like, you have so many different interesting characters in Breaking Bad to where, I've watched it 5 times, and now that, like, I just started season 3 and I'm like, wow, like I've never seen that before. Like, I didn't notice that before. And I think the last time that I watched Breaking Bad, I didn't know about Reddit. So now I think it's really cool to like watch an episode and then just go on Reddit to these like Breaking Bad Reddits, and then it's like, the scene where they tell Walt that he's cancer free, and then he goes into the bathroom and then he just like punches the paper towel dispenser until it's like dented, and it's like, what does that mean? Or like, what do other people think that means? Like, he's cancer free, he should be happy. And then you go and read these discussions and it's like, well, he's pissed because that was his reason. Like, obviously he got into, the whole meth thing because he wanted to leave money for his family, but now he's not going to die, so he doesn't have to do it anymore, but he still wants to do it because he likes the power behind it, so he lost his reason. And then there's also like the artsy answer to it where after he punches it, his face is distorted, and that's kind of like the first of like, he looks in the mirror and he doesn't even know who he is anymore. So like, there's so much of that goes on in Breaking Bad to where, honestly, I might finish it in a week or 2 and just start it again.
Honestly, it sounds like you should blog about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna have to go and check out this Reddit now. Thanks for taking away my life for the next few weeks.
Yeah, the Breaking Bad Reddit and all the different conspiracies and theories and interpretations, because it's like Vince Gilligan isn't. He's done some interviews, but he likes to leave a lot to interpretation. And I didn't realize that there were so many different people commenting about it as it was happening.
Yeah, Breaking Bad, very ambiguous. Haven't watched it in like 7 years, but I do remember crying at the last episode when Walt actually died.
Spoiler, man. People haven't seen this stuff.
Okay. We'll edit this part out.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question for you is, and this is going to be tough. I'm interested to hear your answer here. Do you enjoy Section 10 or Starting 9 more?
It's a very interesting question because the real answer is that I probably enjoy Section 10 more because I laugh the entire time, but I love doing Starting 9 because Dallas is so smart and I always learn something new just from working with him. And obviously Justin Havens is actually the smartest guy on the podcast. Like, he's always doing his baseball research. Like he does that on the side. So like I love starting 9 because of the discussions that we get into. I find very, very interesting, and the guests that we have on, they have like a pretty far reach around the league. But when we get on section 10, I could be having like the worst day in the world, but when I get in the studio with Stephen Coley, I know that I'm about to laugh for the next hour and a half. So I mean, like it's almost like therapeutic to go on section 10 because nothing is taken seriously. And even if there's something super serious going on, we kind of turn it into a joke. So I would probably say that I enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, I imagine Dallas is pretty beaten up with the Kyler Murray news today.
Yeah, I can't wait to rag on him for that. I mean, they wasted their number 9 pick. I mean, I read a bunch of drafts, like the mock drafts before that draft. Because I was like, all right, this Kyler Murray guy seems like a pretty big deal. And a bunch of people had him in the second round. And then the A's go out and not only use their first round number 9 overall pick on him, but they drafted a guy that they didn't know if he was 100% committed to baseball or not. I feel like that was a pretty ill-advised situation, not just in hindsight, but at the time.
Yeah, no, honestly, I remember just being floored when they drafted him because I had also looked at a lot of mock drafts, and he was second round, and it did not appear he was going to go first round. But the A's took the risk, and it looked good for a while, and not so much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
been better.
Sucks. I honestly feel bad. Like I wish it happened to Hubs. I wish it happened to Hubs.
That would have been great.
It sucks because obviously if the Yankees blow their number 9 pick, it's like you can make fun of him for that, but it's not going to set their franchise back. But for the A's, having a top 10 pick, a team like that with the financial freedom or lack thereof that they have, that's damaging for them. Like that's not good. So I think for content purposes, I think it would have been great if the A's were, in a position to be an annual perennial contender. Cause anytime that I can go at Dallas and it's, that it's kind of like not evenly matched, but at least the A's have a chance. Like that's good for business.
Yeah. They didn't even get a compensation pick for Murray, did they?
I think they did.
Did they? They didn't get anything.
Really?
As far as what I read, he just went on Twitter, laid that down. The way he delivered that was hilarious. He's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put this on Twitter.
Yeah,
yeah. And not only that, but he's like, he didn't even mention the A's. It's just like, it's football. Bye. Moving on more to spring training. So there's been a few narratives starting to leak out, and you gotta worry, take them in stride. It's February. It's a lot of fluff pieces, but they're saying that Rafael Devers spent the entire offseason getting in shape, making his body ready, because he blamed a lot of last year's injuries on not being in good enough shape. So Jared, my question to you is, what happens to the nickname?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still going to have to reward him with ice cream. I think he's earned the ice cream more now than ever, in my honest opinion. So I think it's good that he's in shape. I think he's spot on that some of the injuries, especially like the hamstrings, that's as a result of either poor conditioning or a bad diet or just not taking good care of your body. The fact that he's taking his physical fitness seriously that's a scary thing for pitchers because this guy has a ton of talent. I think even more so, when we think about a guy being on a solid workout regimen, we immediately think, oh, the power, he's going to hit more home runs. He needed that to be more nimble defensively. I mean, he thank God, because I think I tweeted in June or July that I keep having this recurring nightmare that Rafael Devers is going to be a disaster defensively in October, and he's going to cost the Red Sox a pivotal game in a postseason series. And that never happened, which was astonishing to me because there were points during the season where he was just not good at all defensively. So hopefully, this new look Rafi is going to, I mean, obviously I'd like to, see some results offensively, but I didn't think that was much of an issue. I think a lot of it was defense. So hopefully he's better fit to play the hot corner.
Yeah. And along that breath, I don't know if this question's ever been asked, but is Rafael Devers a waffle cone or is he an ice cream in the cup guy? How is he getting these scoops?
Yeah, so during the season, he likes it in the cup because it gets messy. So if he makes a good play or if he drives in a run, they usually give him hoodsies at the ballpark because they're quick. It's something that he can consume during the game, and it's a small quantity, and it's not going to melt because it can get pretty hot down there in the dugout. So he's more during the season is a hoodsie guy.
I'm impressed you had such a thought-out answer for that.
you got to go to that level with those kinds of things, you know?
Exactly. So who's hitting the longest piss missile in 2019? For the Red Sox, of course.
I mean, that home run that Mitch Moreland hit in Game 4 of the World Series, that thing is still going. I want to say that I saw a stat that it was the longest home run in postseason history since like 2015, which is basically when they invented StatCast.
Wow.
So you could say it's the longest home run in postseason StatCast era. I'm gonna go Mitch Moreland because when he gets a hold of one, when he swings and misses, he looks terrible. Like he kind of like falls out of the batter's box. His swings and misses look terrible, but when he connects and when he gets one, they fly. So I'm gonna go with Mitch Moreland.
I think that's a good answer right there.
The correct answer though is Christian Vasquez in July in the ninth inning to win the game.
Yeah,
it will be his only hit of the month.
Yeah, he'll hit 3 home runs a year, but they're all 550 feet, and they all win the game.
He makes them count.
Yeah, he does.
So, obviously, pitchers, catchers coming up. I think February 13th for the Red Sox. Which catchers make the opening day roster?
I know that they said that they want to shed one of them.
Yeah.
And I think the most likely to be dealt would be Vasquez because I know that the pitchers love Sandy and the Red Sox love what they see in Blake Swihart from an offensive standpoint. I don't know. I mean, I could see what it's weird because you can make the case that Sandy Leon is the least talented, but he's probably the most safe out of the 3 to not get dealt. I could easily see Blake getting dealt. It's a matter of establishing value. Like I think that there's a very solid chance that they might go into the season with all 3 again, just because you want to establish value with a guy like Swihart. If Swihart's the guy that you want to move, you want to give him some at bats, you want to be able to showcase him a little bit, and maybe move him. But if it's Vasquez, if you really like what you see from Swihart and you want to move Vasquez, then you're going to have to. He didn't have the greatest offensive year last year. I mean, I think he hit 290 the year before that. So he kind of had a down year offensively. And then when you talk about defensive catchers, it sounds like most of the guys, if not all of them, prefer Sandy Leon. So I think it's between those, but I wouldn't be surprised if they started the season with all 3.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the report that came out that they were thinking of shedding one, but obviously not set in stone. Christian Vasquez is an interesting answer because then we won't get those 500-foot blasts in July to win the game.
True.
But I mean, it makes sense. So what kind of clip are you expecting from Blake Swihart to produce this year? Like what kind of production?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, he's not as bad as he was offensively last year. I'm not sure we'll see 290 again. But somewhere if he can hit 250. Give me 250 with like a mid 700 OPS, and that's way more than you could ever ask for because the Red Sox, I mean, it was crazy. They won 108 games, and they were basically a National League team. Like they had the DH, but the catching spot was essentially as bad as pitchers are in the National League. It was insane. They were this offensive juggernaut that won 108 games and a World Series title essentially uncontested. They were a National League team that played with National League rules for the whole year with the production that they got offensively from their catchers. But to the point about Vasquez and his game-winning home runs, everyone forgets because of the order in which it happened. The clinching game in Yankee Stadium, that was a Christian Vasquez game-winning home run off Zach Britton. It was 4-0. He made it 4-0 with a solo home run. It was a dinky home run to right field, and the Yankees ended up making it 4-3. But that fourth run was a Christian Vasquez home run. So I don't know. It's I would love I'm not expecting any type of JT Realmuto, Buster Posey type offensive production. I'm not even expecting league average. Like if you can give me a 700 OPS, I'll take that too.
Yeah, no, I for sure. If you get 700 OPS,
just don't be actively terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a standard.
Suck. Well, I mean, even still, you could still suck and win a World Series. That's a proven fact.
Yeah, win 108 games and win the World Series with that catching production.
Worst offensive production from the catching position ever.
Free out every time.
So, who's going to be the spring training MVP this year in your mind? Obviously, predictions. This is like the Sam Travis Award. Who's going to be this year's Sam Travis?
It's going to be Sam Travis. I don't know anybody else besides Sam Travis. I mean, Sam Travis is going to show up. He's going to hit 396. He's going to slug like 900, and I don't see him making the opening day roster. But Sam Travis is the best spring training player that I think I've ever seen.
I think that's ever lived, really.
It's just not even close.
Yeah, I remember Blake Swihart was killing in spring training last year too. But Sam Travis was the guy.
Blake had a hot spring before. I know, who was it like a couple of years ago? Oh, it was Jackie Bradley. He hits really well in the spring too.
Yeah, I was going to say he did that like 3 years in a row, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that first year he made everyone forgets Jackie Bradley made the opening day roster in 2013, and that was from a monster spring. Everyone was like, this guy needs to play, and then he ended up coming up and being terrible, and they sent him back down. But he had a spring where it was like, why wouldn't this guy be on the opening day roster?
That gives me hope for Sam Travis.
Yeah.
Take that hope away. Just going to tell you that right now.
So what prospect are you most excited for to watch this season or to monitor?
Oh man, that's an easy one. That would be none other than Dalton Furbush. I mean, I can't like. It's weird when we had him on the podcast. We had like a mutual friend at TCU, so we kind of just like became friends and we just like chit chat every now and then. And he is like, dude, I know when I get called up, no one is gonna call me Durbin Feltman. Like I'm just accepting the fact that my name is Dalton Furbush, and like there's nothing that I can do about it. All I can do is embrace it. And I was like, this is good. This is what a great attitude to have. A kid that gets drafted in the 3rd round, number 100 overall pick. He's the best collegiate closer in the country, and I know like I don't care anymore. But when people used to say, like Dave used to say my name wrong all the time, he used to piss me off. And this dude, like you have to, and when you're a closer, you have to have that like I'm the man type mentality. And he just got drafted. He's with the Red Sox. Everyone's talking about you're going to be the closer of the future, best closer in the country in college. Yeah, we're just going to completely change your name. And he was cool with it. I was like, all right, I can't wait. I cannot wait for the Dalton Furbush era in Boston, which I would imagine is probably going to be this year, especially if they don't re-sign Kimbrel, which I don't see happening either.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy.
Side note to that, have you developed some sort of like a god complex to speak where you can kind of just like change the lives of all these Red Sox players basically at whim?
I think that definitely speaks to the passion and loyalty of the Section 10 listeners to where we can make the stupidest joke on the podcast and it just becomes a thing. Like it happens all the time where we make the dumbest jokes that we think are just like something that we laugh at for 10 minutes. And then next thing you know, like we're still talking about it like 2 years later. So like the Dalton Furbush thing, that was literally just Coley not remembering his name. Like we were recording a podcast. We were like right after the draft. And then we were like, yeah, they got Tristan Cassis, and they got Nick Decker, and then he's like, who's the closer that they got? Dalton Furbush or something like that. And we just all started dying laughing because what a ridiculous name to just pop off the top of your head. And next thing you know, I mean, like I think Durbin Feltman, after that podcast came out, he tweeted like, I guess my name is Dalton Furbush now. So he's just all in. So I need him to get called up before Players Weekend when the Red Sox, like when every team like wears their nicknames on their back, because he said he's like, yeah, like I'm obviously gonna wear Furbush on the back.
You should try to make sure that he's got a custom jersey that says Furbush on the back in in the clubhouse when he gets called up.
Oh yeah. Day one, he walks in the clubhouse and it's just like his name and his number just says Furbush on it.
Yeah, and he's like, "What is this?"
So you obviously have a knack for these cool nicknames. What's been your favorite, man? I know there's a lot of them, but if you had to pick one that you've come up with, what's number one?
Oh man. I mean, like, the only active Hall of Famer for Sandy Leone is still funny to me because, like, every year, you know, like you get new podcast listeners, you get new social media followers, and whenever I use it, I think he hit, like, a walk-off home run to start, like, 2017, I think?
Yeah. It was against the Pirates.
Yeah.
Extra innings.
And I blogged it, and then it ended up on, like, Reddit being like, how is he in the Hall of Fame? Like, is it for, like, something other than baseball? Like, people were, like, trying to figure it out. So, like, that one is funny. I remember that when the Red Sox signed JD, I was like, yeah, and the JD stands for Jumbo Dong. And then that became a thing, and then it kind of took off. We, like, had T-shirts and everything. And then there was one game that I was at Yankee Stadium in, like, July, I want to say. And I was with Marlins Man. And he has this dinner, like, there's, like, this fancy restaurant in Yankee Stadium. It's like the Diamond Club or something like that. I can't remember. But Marlins Man table is right up against the glass that separates the restaurant from, like, the main concourse area. So, like, we're sitting there and we're eating and whatever. And then, like, some woman walks up to the window and she, like, knocks on the window, and I look over at her and she turns around and she's wearing a JD Martinez jersey. And I was like, oh, sick. Yeah, I love him too. And then she turns back around and she, like, I couldn't hear her, but I could read her lips, and she was like, "That's my son." And I was like, what?
Wow.
And, like, I ran out of the restaurant and, like, I go, like, to meet her, and she's like, yeah, like, that's my son. I'm JD's mom. And I was like, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. And she's like, I just gotta ask you, why do you call my son Jumbo Dog? And I was like, take one guess, Mrs. Martinez. Take one guess. And, like, her JD's dad was there. That was the first time that I met his dad. And I was like, oh, Senor Dong, it's so good to meet you. So, like, we ended up, like, taking a picture with his parents and everything. But yeah, I mean, that they ended up being on the duck boat with us. So, like, I have a good relationship with JD's parents now, which is ridiculous to say.
I mean, that's what you get for giving his son that awesome nickname, Jumbo Dog.
Yeah.
You deserve that.
Yeah. It was quite the scene.
Yeah, I also really enjoy Mayor of Ding Dong City. I think that's one of your best, too.
That one, so...
I miss Travis Shaw so much.
We all do.
Me too. That one was crazy because that one took off to the point where when he hit home runs at Fenway, they started playing, like, some song that had the words, like, ding dong in it. So he would, like, hit home runs at Fenway, and they would play, like, Keep Your Heads Ringing or something like that. And then when he got traded to the Brewers, he kept it. And then he started wearing on, like, the nickname weekend, he would wear, like, Mayor of DDC. So for Christmas this year, one of my friends, like, reached out to him. I mean, like, I'm friends with Travis. Like, I talk to him, like, probably more than any other player now. Like, we keep in touch still. So one of my friends reached out to him and was like, hey, if I send you a Mayor of Ding Dong City jersey, will you sign it for Jared and send it back? Like, I'm giving it to him for Christmas. So he obviously agreed. They sent the jersey to him. He signed it, like, to Rocket. Thanks for the nickname, Travis Shaw, Mayor of Ding Dong City. So now I have that in, like a big framed glass case. So I would say, yeah, Mayor of Ding Dong City has to be, like, the golden standard. Like, that one took off.
Yeah, okay. So my last question for you, and then if David could have another question, go for it. But so there have been reports that Big Papi and Rafael Devers have been hanging out, which, you know, that means good things. Hopefully at least 400 home runs. But I want to know, because Pedro Martinez also worked out with Nathan Eovaldi last summer about his landing foot. So I want to know, in your opinion, who would be more influential, Pedro Martinez or Big Papi?
I think it's Pedro because, you know, when you're a hitter, there's really only so much you can say from one hitter to another that's going to make a hitter better. But when you're a pitcher, you can teach guys so much, especially when you're as good as Pedro was. You can teach them new pitch grips. You can teach them new, like you said, like the landing foot. Like Pedro can watch a guy pitch and be like, "Oh, you're doing this wrong. Like your hips are flying open, or you're tipping your pitches." There's so many things that you can correct just by watching a pitcher. But when you're a hitter, your swing usually is what your swing is. You can talk about approach. You can say like, look for this with this guy, but that's more, pitcher to pitcher. Like that's more like a strategy type deal. Like you can work with a guy in the video room and you can be like, when you're facing this guy, watch for this or something like that. But with pitching, I think that there's just so much more that you can teach man to man versus hitter to hitter.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be more intricacies going on. I agree with that. I feel like being coached by either would be a blessing. But yeah, Pedro Martinez, Nathan Eovaldi. And then obviously I think that worked out well, especially down the stretch when Martinez tinkered with Eovaldi's landing.
Yeah, he did okay in the playoffs.
He did okay, yeah. Just okay.
He gave up a game-losing home run, though, so really, how good was he?
That's true.
Trade him. Sure, I've got one more for you, Jared. So, Chris Sale has reportedly added on weight. That's what he's saying, but everyone down at camp says he looks like he's added maybe 1 pound. Are you buying this one at all, or is he still just, like, skinny as a rail?
Yeah, I saw the pictures, and, I didn't notice weight loss or weight gain when I was looking at the pictures, but...
I don't think he can lose weight.
Yeah, that's true.
Not like Pablo.
Whatever the World Series ring weighs, that's what weight he's going to gain this season.
My last question is, there's been all this talk about rule changes and whatnot, and all that good stuff. If you could change one thing outside of, I would say the obvious, like pitch clocks, some radical change, what would you change of baseball?
Definitely the universal DH. Like, it's insane to me that National League fans are so adamant about keeping pitchers hitting. It's the most boring thing about baseball is like, it's a piss break. Oh, here comes a pitcher. Like, he's either gonna bunt or he's gonna strike out or he's gonna roll one over to second base. Like I'm pretty sure, and this is something again that you learned from Jay on Starting Nine. I think the slash line for pitchers was this past year was the worst in baseball history. So it's like these guys don't care about that craft. I mean, they're pitchers. I think it's also crazy that pitchers just, they magically can't hit, because when you think back to, high school and college, the pitchers were the best athletes. The pitcher in high school was like the number 3 hitter, the center fielder, and the shortstop. Like that's who the pitchers were. So it's like, at what point do they just forget how to hit or stop caring about hitting? I guess, when you get to college, you're just like, all right, you're just a pitcher now. But I think the universal DH corrects a few problems. Number one, obviously, everyone wants to complain about the length of the games. It's not how long the games are. It's the time in between action. And if you have a universal DH, then you have more action because you have another guy that can not just put the ball in play, but hit the ball in the screws. You're also creating more jobs, which is, you have 100 free agents that are still sitting out there right now. You're creating more jobs for these guys where it's like, well, and rightfully so, there's a lot of emphasis put on defense now where, maybe 10 years ago, you're looking at a guy that's a monstrosity defensively, but you're like, well, he might be able to hit 35 to 40 home runs, so we'll just stick him at first base. Now he can DH in the National League. Like, he should be able to do that. And it also extends careers. Like, what if there were no DH, what would happen to the legacy of David Ortiz? And why should baseball fans be deprived of such a career because National League fans want to see pitchers hit? Like, there is nothing exciting about that. And obviously Mets fans always counter with, if we had the DH in the National League, we never would have had the Bartolo Colon moment. And it's like, yeah, that was a really cool moment, but like, that was one highlight out of how many years of pitchers hitting. Like, you look at, Madison Bumgarner, and you look at, Zach Greinke can hit a little bit. Like, there's pitchers that can hit and can hold their own. But let's just say you don't have a universal DH, but you change the rules so that, managers, you can DH like whatever spot you want. Like, you would never see a manager have a pitcher hit. If they have the option to have a pitcher hit or have a pitcher not hit, they're not sending. There's not a pitcher in the league who they would willingly send to the plate unless it was like a pinch hit spot. Like we saw, like Clayton Kershaw pinch hit in the World Series. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, he actually hit the ball in the screws. Like, he put one like in the gap. It was a flyout. But I mean, he can swing it a little bit. There's guys that can swing it a little bit, but you would never have them start. And that's fine. Like, if there's a Madison Bumgarner that you want to use as like a secret weapon as like a pinch hitter to lengthen your bench, it's like, well, we have, a utility infielder, we have a utility outfielder, and then we have Madison Bumgarner if we really need to go to him off the bench. But no manager, if they have the choice, is starting a pitcher in their starting lineup.
Yeah,
unless you have Shohei Ohtani.
Unless you have Shohei Ohtani, which is a big type of exception to the rule, and he's awesome. Like, he's great to watch, but that's literally it.
Or Rick Porcello, just throwing that out there.
High slugging percentage on the team, Rick Porcello.
Rip City Ricky, aka Ricky Gap Shots. I mean, that dude. It was a who's who of who he was just ripping doubles in the gap off of.
No, but it's true. Like 9 times out of 10, it's like watching paint dry.
99 out of 100.
99 out of 100. 9 out of 10 is generous.
Yeah, like outside of the Porcello double against Scherzer, I can't think of a single like hit a pitcher had that was interesting at all. Like,
every time Bartolo Colon made contact, that's my counter.
He played in Texas this year, though.
No, I'm just saying throughout
throughout the course of history, yes,
exactly.
But I'd be open to changing a rule where Bartolo Colon hits 1 through 9.
That would be actually very entertaining. Like, after he retired, I would pay a streaming service that just had Bartolo Colon doing anything, really.
Yeah, Netflix should pick that up.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. So we're gonna get your Twitter handle out there. Although if they're following Red Sox Unfiltered, there's no way they're not following Jared Carrabis. But so it's at Jared_Carrabis.
Yep.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I had a lot of fun doing it. We'll have to do it again during the season, and especially if the Red Sox are doing some damage again in 2019.
Well, they should be.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, thank you so much, man.
All right, guys, no problem. Take it easy.
Yeah, take it easy. Enjoy spring training.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that wonderful interview with Jared Carrabis. Thanks again, Jared, for coming on. And thanks, guys, for listening to this episode in general. This was the Big 4-0, number 40. Very excited that you guys continue to listen to this podcast with us. Follow us on Twitter at Sox Unfiltered, and obviously go on RedSoxUnfiltered.com and click on articles. If you're generous, you can click on ads. They're plastered on the site. But yeah, so if The Grueling Truth, who is our wonderful affiliate, posts this podcast on their variety of platforms like iHeartRadio, you can listen there. We're on Spotify, we're on SoundCloud, we're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes. So there's so many places you can listen to this. Thanks, guys. Pitchers and catchers in 2 days, or actually probably when you're listening to this, it is already happened or happening. So go Red Sox. Let's get another World Series. Let's do it. Thanks, guys.
You really need to just do like a blooper reel.
I'm gonna create a blooper section.
And scene. All right. 3, 2.
By the way, whenever we do
Why
this...
do we need the end scene? Like,
whenever we do this, I love this part. Because I sit there, I listen to the whole thing now on 1.75 speed, because that's about how my brain processes it. And I need to do it faster because I don't have that much time. But when I listen to this now, I love the ending where it just goes quiet for like 5-10 seconds. Then you see your Pat go, and scene. or the last time it was literally like 5 seconds after the podcast was he's like, grass.
Now let's do this outro. Okay, Kat, you want to take it away from here?
Take it away, kitty cat.
Surprise! Happy and wonderful birthday to you. Laughter and happiness too. Yeah, you. Happy and wonderful birthday to Ningo's here. May all your wishes come true. Yeah. Happy birthday. Hurry up and blow the candles. I'm hungry.
I'm about to buy my first case of legal alcohol
Oh, dude, why the hell are you talking about
When's your birthday?
tomorrow.
Oh, you're waiting until midnight?
Yeah, I'm waiting till midnight. I have a twin brother. Don't look alike. Don't know if you knew that, but I'm taking him, and we're going to Harris Teeter, which is the North Carolina grocery store. And it's open. Or we're going to go to Walmart.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so I'm going to drop like $100 in alcohol or $60. I don't know. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. You have fun. Don't do anything. Remember, the Lord is watching.